Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski, along with our coaches Jake Paterno and Tom Bradley. The bowl matchup is set. USC loses, Ohio State slides up to the college football playoff, and there's Penn State waving at the Rose Bowl committee. They're going to Pasadena for the new year.
Waving at the Rose Bowl committee and hoping Purdue, down only one at halftime, doesn't screw it up for everybody. We're going to talk about it a little bit more when we talk about playoff scenarios. But yeah, a great surprise gift. I mean, fantastic.
And result.
It's a great venue. There's no question about it. If you've got to be anywhere,
yeah,
Pasadena's not bad.
That's one of those lifetime memories. You know, you get to play in that facility. We're going to talk about the granddaddy of them all, the traditional Pac-12 opponent, and then the chaos that is the transfer portal in our opening drive. Okay, so the last trip to the Rose Bowl came after Coach Franklin's guys locked up the Big Ten championship at home in 2016. Incredible back-and-forth offensive game with USC. Nittany Lions on the short end of a 52-49 thriller. They earned their way back, guys, with a solid 10-2 mark in the regular season, unranked to begin the year. Quite an impressive run then to get that Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the teams they had to beat, and everybody's going to talk about the fact that they didn't beat a ranked team. Well, this is how you end it. You're going to play the Pac-12 champion. First time in a long time that Penn State has played a conference champion in a bowl game, and we'll see how good they really are.
Yeah, I hear that argument all the time. Well, they only can play who's on their schedule. That's all they have.
Yeah.
And they won them.
And Tom, they grew all through the year. Got better and better as we discussed them on a week-to-week basis, didn't they?
They sure did. On both sides of the ball, and even their kicking game got better.
Yep.
And this is a Pac-12 champion from a conference that is much better than the Big Ten. So this is going to be a real steep challenge.
So after the win over the Spartans, Coach was asked about his pre-playoff bowl season philosophy.
Yeah, I think it's still important to go to the biggest and the best games you possibly can in the postseason, and whether that is a New Year's Six bowl game or whatever, there's still value in it.
Yeah, plenty of value in playing the Pac-12 champs, Utah. This is the second straight trip to Pasadena for the Utes.
Well, it's a great challenge for Penn State. Utah, obviously, we're familiar with the territory, and that was a wild game last year with Ohio State. Utah got a big lead. Ohio State came back. Hopefully, we get the same kind of result with the Big Ten team finishing with the win. Yeah,
there's one thing about this Utah team. They are tough up front, and they're going to bring it.
Yeah.
And please check the nail polish on all your quarterbacks. It didn't work out very well for Caleb Williams. And again, that's going to be a real challenge for Penn State's offense.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned how tough Utah is. They're battle tested. They know what it's about, and they know what it's like to get to Pasadena. They've been through that process. None of these kids for Penn State have been to Pasadena, been to the Rose Bowl. There is something to the process, right? And the system part of it, the systemic part of getting to a bowl game and a destination. And
kind of understanding what goes with this. There's a lot of things around the Rose Bowl that are unique to the Rose Bowl. And when you walk out on that field, that's Americana. You grow up watching that game at 5 o'clock Eastern.
And here's the other thing, too, about that game real quick. How you prepare that 5 week off. You got to know what you're doing, because when you haven't had a game in 5 weeks, it changes things, how you go about preparing for the game.
Good point, Tom, because now the Nittany Lions just have to figure out who's going to be on the roster on January 2nd. This brings us to the current chaos that is the transfer portal, along with the potential opt-outs for the Nittany Lions and Utah. So we take a look. Of course, we know about Joey Porter Jr., first team All-Big Ten cornerback. He's focusing on his time on the upcoming NFL draft, and quarterback Christian Veilleux entered the transfer portal early. This affects quarterback depth. So it's a little chaotic. Who are you going to have? Who's mentioning they're going to go? That type of stuff. It's tough.
Well, I think for coaches, it's tough to focus strictly on the bowl game and the guys you have that are finishing up classes, because now you're dealing with transfer portal. You got a signing day on the 21st. They got to move the signing day back to February so they can settle the transfer portal stuff first, get the bowls, get all that kind of stuff. I think that's the first. But no one is in charge of college football right now, and that's the problem.
They've got to change all the dates. The games are going to have to change. The bowl things are going to have to change. It's going to have to get all restructured.
All right, let's get to the scrap metal. Tom, you want to recognize the Scrap Metal Defensive Player of the Year. You go with safety Jair Brown, and as you talk about him, we show you his favorite play from his Penn State career, the scoop and score against Rutgers.
Hey, first and foremost, he's one of the captains, a team leader that came back to improve the team when he could have declared for the draft after the 2021 season. He's from Trenton, New Jersey, played at Trenton Central. He's a ball hawk. 9 interceptions in his career, 3 fumble recoveries, and 3 forced fumbles. Important trait for a good safety, always around the ball. Has for this season 66 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 3 pass breakups, and 5 quarterback hurries, which obviously shows he has great versatility, and that is why he's our scrap metal defensive player of the year.
Good choice, Coach. He's got a great career behind him for the blue and white. Still to come, our scouting report. Our coaches discuss the current college football playoff and examine a Penn State defense that made life miserable on many of their opponents. More Nittany Game Week after this.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Appreciate you joining us here on Nittany Game Week. Way back at the Nittany Lions preseason media day, linebacker Kobe King told us learning the system for new defensive coordinator Manny Diaz was like another class in college. It sure didn't take long for Kobe and the rest of the guys to master the material and pass with flying colors. Our coaches take a closer look at the Nittany Lions defense from 2022. They certainly had lapses at times, but guys, they put an awful lot of opponents behind schedule on offense.
Well, we're going to talk defense, and we're also going to talk about playoffs and what it might look like. You know, one of the big things everybody's talking about is if the 12-team playoff were in place, what would it look like? So let's take a look at last week's top 10 before the championship games. Penn State's at 8, Clemson's at 9. Okay, Penn State's going to get a home game. Championship week happens, we move on to the next. All of a sudden, Penn State goes from 8 to 11 because 3 conference champions jumped them. And had there been a playoff, you know, had Purdue won, they're out. So let's go to the next thing. So here are the playoff rankings, Tom. Penn State goes to Ohio State in week.
Yeah. Who wants to go to Ohio
Exactly.
State?
But here's the thing you got to remember. Everybody said about the Rose Bowl, if the playoff was in place and you go out to Ohio State and you lose, you're done. There is no bowl trip. So fans, you don't ever get anything for nothing. Now, if there was a 12-team playoff, there would be a little debate on that last playoff spot. You know, right now, without any real consequences, the guys in there can say, well, Penn State's 11, Washington's 12, you know, no big deal. If they had this debate, then Penn State may not have gotten that spot when you look at what Washington's done and what Penn State has done.
It's going to start to get awful tricky in the years ahead, isn't it?
And your non-conference schedule is going to start to matter in who you play. So let's take a look at the defense since we talked about it. If you look at last year to this year, some real good improvements here at Penn State. Defensively, rushing was much better run defense, Tom, and passing defense was a little bit down.
Yeah, one of the things that helped you on defense this year was the fact that the offense was able to run the ball, so you weren't on the field as many times.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the number of plays. Number of plays went down, Tom. Sacks went up, as you alluded to, and turnover margin about the same. But really did the things they had to do in the red zone.
They've been great in the red zone for a few years now. Number 1, that in the conference.
Yep. So let's talk about some things that they did this year with Manny Diaz. A lot of upfield push, Tom, as you know, and having coached the linebackers, when you get that kind of push, what's it allow these guys to do?
It allows them to run free, and there's nothing better than to attack the ball downhill.
Yeah, take a look at that on video. You're going to see that Michigan State, the offensive line's getting pushed backwards, and there's a safety and a linebacker making contact in the backfield. That's where those tackle for losses come. Let's talk about some of the pressures that you got with Manny Diaz. A lot of 6-man pressures, sometimes with man behind it, sometimes with zone. But what does that do to a quarterback when you get those overloads?
Well, he sees 8 around the ball right here, right now. He's not sure what 6 are coming, who's coming.
Yep.
So that thing's coming out quick.
Yeah, and it puts these guys in a bind as to who's got who, and sometimes you guys get guys running free. But it makes the quarterback throw quickly, and on those third downs, if you come up and make the tackle short, now you're punting the ball.
No question about it. And that was one of the great things they did this year on defense.
Yep. And now let's take a look about. We talked about how Penn State went from 3rd in the conference in passing to 9th in terms of yards allowed. One of the things that probably they get to prove in the offseason is the inside breaking routes, the up and back on the linebackers, because a new group and didn't quite get the hang of that as we go.
Well, one of the things when you're asking an edge guy to come back and play that, he's not used to looking and seeing that, and his eyes aren't as good as a linebacker or a defensive back would be.
And a lot of times you saw Marvin Harrison had some ones breaking the inside. Some other guys made some yardage on those things and weren't able to move the ball. But overall, a much improved defense from a year ago. And one person that never needs to improve much because he's always at a high level is Todd Sadowski. Todd, over to you.
All right, move it back over this direction. Now, look, you both saw it firsthand. Not many players would terrify an opposing offense as much as former Nittany Lions linebacker LeVar Arrington. One of the famous double sticks, number 11s in Penn State history, receives the ultimate honor for a college player when he's inducted into the College Hall of Fame this week.
This one meant more than anyone. Even if I did make the NFL Hall of Fame, it just seemed pro is business. College was the last stage of highest level of competition, and still the pageantry and the purity of what it represents. I will always and forever be a Penn State Nittany Lion.
Congrats to LeVar. Such a well-deserved honor for a dominant player in Happy Valley. Time to take a break. Our Impact interview is with another former Nittany Lion defensive standout, Aaron Maybin, first-round pick in the NFL draft. After his career, he's taken a fascinating path in life after football. We'll talk with Aaron when we come back. You're watching Nittany Game Week.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Well, welcome back. Time for our Impact interview. Our next guest, another former Nittany Lion, making a huge impact after football. Aaron Maybin was named an All-American defensive end after his 2008 season in State College, the 11th overall pick of the 2009 NFL Draft. Spent 5 years in the NFL and then made the decision to walk away from football to pursue a career as a professional artist, activist, author, educator, and community organizer in his hometown of Baltimore. His art, photography, and writing have all been exhibited in galleries and museums internationally. Aaron, welcome to Nittany Game Week. It is a pleasure to have you with us.
Much appreciated, Todd. Thanks for having me.
So look, there's so much to your story. It's not going to be easy to touch on all of it, but we're going to give it a try, okay? Since leaving Penn State and the NFL, you've returned to Charm City, where you grew up and have made an impact in so many ways. Your post-football efforts really gained notice when you stood up to demand changes, even in something so basic as heat in classrooms for students. So at your core, what drives the passion, the call to activism to make a difference?
The need, the fact that I grew up in this same community and I was essentially one of the children that was left behind, a desire to see the children that are coming up in that system now have a better way. The fact that I'm raising my children, that I've created in this same school system, and I'm looking to find it transformed for the better, for the generations that follow behind us, making sure that they have opportunities that people like myself and those that I went to school with never had. At the end of the day, we can look at the reality of the world around us and decide that, the world is just lost and people are, unredeemable, or we can look at it and say, this is an opportunity for a reimagining of society, a reimagining of ourselves and how we deal with one another. And I wanted my work to be a reflection of that.
Well, it certainly has been, and you've been what many would call a positive disruptor of this system. In a country where people are looking to divide, you speak so often of unity, love, and hope. You certainly excelled in football and disruption as a pass rusher. But now as you look at the system that has failed in some ways, how much do you relish the challenge daily of creating positive disruption to benefit the young people all around you, benefit the students that you have called an extension of your own children?
I don't know if I relish in it as much as I understand my role and responsibility, and I don't take that lightly. At the end of the day, it's a shame that people like myself with a platform have to use that platform to do what people that are elected to certain positions won't. But, we come from a long history of organizing and galvanizing and grassroots work here in Baltimore City. And I come from a long line of agitators and organizers. So, it's in my blood and it's in the blood of my community that I represent. So I have to make sure that when I'm going out and I'm advocating, I'm doing it from a real place. The reason why I live right in the middle of the trenches where I represent, you know what I mean? West Baltimore is my home, and it's where we're doing the grassroots work. It's where we're doing the educational work, but it's also where I call home. So I have to make sure I have proximity to these issues in order to understand how we go about creating sustainable solutions.
Aaron, it's great to see you again. Hey, you lost your mom when you were young, but in your large family, you learned to take on the challenges of so many children in the community. How did your upbringing really set the stage for the values that drive you now?
In so many ways, Scrap. Like, you know, we've had so many conversations even when I was in school, so it would be impossible for me to cover it all now. But in a few bullet points, you know, the arts were always a method that I used to communicate. So understanding that there were so many different layers to me, not just an athlete, but a human being, you know, understanding that my story had so many layers, and so did the kids that I grew up with. So did the families that I grew up next to. So did the communities that I represent today. And a lot of times when you talk about cities and communities like mine, in Baltimore City and Philadelphia and, you know, Chicago and cities across the country that are reflective of the same issues, you don't have a nuanced vision and representation of those cities. You see the worst elements of them, but you don't see the humanity. You don't see the ingenuity. You don't see the people that are organizing and reimagining the society that they want to create. And I wanted to make sure that I used my platform to shed a light on that I wasn't just myself trying to be a reflection of the world that I wanted to see, but I was highlighting the work of others that were doing the exact same thing.
You alluded to your conversations with Scrap, right, when you were a younger man. And, you know, your head coach, Joe Paterno, passed away before he really got to see your vision and the impact that you're having. Based on your conversations you had with him and his influence, what do you think he'd be most proud of as he sees what you're doing for so many people in your community?
Wow, man. That's a great question. I haven't really ever took time to really sit and reflect on that, because honestly, at the point that I left school, you know, me and Joe weren't necessarily in the best of places, and we had such a contentious relationship because I was a young man trying to find himself, and he was a molder of men that saw promise in me, but knew that there were a whole lot of things that I was missing, that he needed to forcefully, you know what I mean, force feed me in order for me to get where he wanted to see me go. I would hope and I would pray that I had become a reflection of the young man that he saw promise in when he first sat in my parents' living room and told me, you know, that he saw something in me.
Aaron is going to stick around to give us some more insight into his story. We're going to step aside for the TV show to take a break. We will continue our interview, so if you want to see the entire conversation with former Nittany Lions All-American Aaron Maybin, make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire interview along with other web-exclusive content. Coming up, it's the postseason for the teams and for us. We need your help to decide the best fan pick of the season, how you can take part in our Pride Picks playoffs. When we return, we're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week. Now, bowl season not quite in full swing. The holidays rapidly approaching. Plenty for sports fans to do and see in the Pocono Mountains. For more on their small town charm, we hand it off to our very own Mr. Christmas, Andrew Callista.
I love this time of the year, and why not? It is the holiday season. In fact, I love it so much I have 6 Christmas trees in my house. But hey, some people this time of the year, they love snowmen. And if you love snowmen, you gotta visit downtown Stroudsburg, because the downtown is where snowmen like Ava Cactus Pants are a great example of that small town holiday charm that we all love, and you get it when you visit the beautiful Pocono Mountains.
That sweet sound of the holidays, from hot chocolate to Christmas lights, everywhere we go, we get inspired. If you want to escape to what can feel like a fairy tale Christmas-like movie set, there may be no better place than the Pocono Mountains.
You know everyone. It's so amazing to be part of a small town in America, because it doesn't happen anymore.
It happens here in the Poconos, and that is why there are jolly souls all over the town. Yes, I am talking about snowmen, and big ones. They may not have corncob pipes and a button nose, but they sure are fun to be around. I asked Brianna Strunk of Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau about their story.
Now, it is the most wonderful time of the year. We have the Christmas tree behind us here at Courthouse Square, but we also have snowmen all over the entire town.
Yeah, the snowmen started 5 years ago, and quite frankly, they've really snowballed ever since. There are 37 life-size sculptures spread around the Stroudsburg area. They were each hand-painted and handcrafted by a local artist, so really spotlighting our artist community here in the Poconos, and they've really become a phenomenon.
And you can tell that the local artists have fun with all the detail and creative designs that are spread throughout the town. Come for the holidays and have a blast, and if you run into the locals, they may try to convince you into staying.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I love to live in the Poconos. There's a Seinfeld episode that talks about the Poconos. There are so many things about the Poconos that are amazing, and the longer we lived here, it's like, oh my God, all these tourists love it. I've worked at the crossings, I've worked in town. It is an amazing place to visit and an even better place to live.
No magic is needed in an old top hat to make sure this trip is spectacular, as it will leave anyone wanting to come back again someday.
All right, thank you, Andrew. If you want more information on the Pocono Mountains and you're thinking about making a visit, make sure you visit their website, PoconoMountains.com. Coming soon, Jay Paterno on skis, carving up the slopes at Shawnee Mountain.
That's just the talent I got, man.
Remind me not to go to Andrew's house to help him take down those 6 Christmas trees.
They're all themed, too. He could give you the whole, it's a whole scene, man, absolutely. All right, let's head to our depth chart. In addition to a television show, we're in the networking business with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. We are connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps our hometowns strong. And if you haven't noticed yet, we have a lot to share with you when it comes to college football and beyond. It doesn't all fit in a 30-minute window. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. And we need your help. We've reached the postseason for our Pride picks. We're in the playoffs. We have 4 finalists to choose from in the fan category. We're going to go to show them to you in just a second. Go to our website, NittanyGameWeek.com, and vote for your favorite. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.